Have you felt your thumb scroll your spine into water? Watched a crowd decide in minutes what takes a mind years? Tasted the little sickness that comes after posting a clean thought and waking to a pile of borrowed rage? Have you noticed how the timeline turns men into mimicry? How you soften to fit the mood, then harden to survive the mockery, then find yourself hollow in the quiet kitchen with a phone that will not stop glittering? Friedrich Nietzsche would not beg the feet to be kinder. He would ask whether you are creating values or renting them by the like. He would call the timeline a training ground for herd morality. Fast pity, fast outrage, fast shame. And he would demand you become the kind of solitary who can walk through it without being drafted. This is not withdrawal from the world. It is authorship in it. The aim is simple and severe: to remain a self while the crowd surges. Nietzsche names the social impulse to flatten the high and exalt the mediocre as herd morality. On the timeline, the herd arrives engineered. Algorithms amplify the effect that travels fastest. Envy an offense. Resentment, moralized envy, becomes an economy. You are offered portable righteousness in exchange for your attention, and attention is harvested to feed the machine that keeps you small. Do not romanticize this as community. It is a marketplace of compensations where weakness purchases theater. The herd calls its impulses virtue because it cannot endure strength that stands without apology. It praises equality as an alibi for laziness and calls clarity cruelty, because clarity closes the loopholes where it hides. The test for a man is simple. Can you hold a judgment beyond the half-life of a trend? Can you love a difficult truth when it earns silence? Can you endure being misunderstood by people who never intended to understand you? Nietzsche's counsel is not tantrum. It is hardness against manipulation. He speaks of a good European who can breathe thin mountain air. Translate the mountain into a practice. Slow your intake until opinions arrive like guests, not invaders. Read the long book rather than the photocopied excerpt. Refuse the headline that flatters your tribe. Keep a small circle where the cost of your errors is correction, not cancellation. The herd wants your speed, because speed disables digestion. Resist with the length of your sentences and the pace of your replies. Let a hot take die on your desk overnight. Watch how it cools into something worth saying or into ash. You do not owe the crowd your pulse on demand. The timeline is not a sovereign. It is a mirror angled to make you doubt your height. Walk past mirrors. Look out windows. Then return, if you must, as someone who can traffic through noise without worshipping it. This is not contempt for people. It is contempt for the mechanism that keeps people from becoming persons. A feed can be a tool. It becomes a god when you treat it as the court where being is granted. Nietzsche would spit from that altar and go for a walk. He would return with a sentence he could live, not a posture he could sell. Will to power, for Nietzsche, is not domination of others. It is form-giving strength, the impulse to shape your life as art. On the timeline, this will mutate into a will to approval. The metric becomes a moral. You begin to equate truth with reach, goodness with engagement, courage with riskless performance. You adjust the angle of your thought to catch more light and call this influence. You forget that a sun can burn alone. The will to approval is respectable because it pays. Careers, dates, invitations. Many now route through quantified reputation. Nietzsche would not pretend otherwise. He would ask whether you have a private ledger where your real economy is kept. Mornings owned by reading that cannot be posted. Work that survives without applause. Friends who laugh at you when you posture. Without that ledger, you will drift into becoming a curator of reactions. You will speak in the grammar of tribes and call it conviction. You will discover that the feed rewards confession as content and punishes change as betrayal. You will then stop changing to stay consistent with a version of yourself you performed last year. This is moral paralysis disguised as authenticity. Rearm your will. Decide a few sentences about reality that you refuse to auction. Human excellence is good even when unequal. Pity is not love. Truth is not a pole. Beauty requires hierarchy. Responsibility outranks grievance. Do not display these as slogans. Hide them in your bones and let them shape your selections. Accept the tax. Fewer invitations to panels that sell sameness. Fewer retweets from accounts that farm outrage. Fewer allies whose loyalty is just synchronized dislike. The will to power appears in small, unphotographed acts. Declining the cheap enemy. Crediting a thinker your friends dislike. Refusing to subtweet a man you could humiliate. Building competence in silence until competence speaks. The herd will call you aloof. Nietzsche would call you a beginning. You are transferring allegiance from a metric to a measure. The metric counts eyes. The measure asks whether you could say this in a room of 10, or 1, or none, and still be glad to have spoken. The feed treats you like soft clay. Harden without becoming brittle. Fire your character in a kiln that is not portable. When the numbers drop, let the numbers drop. Your center cannot be a dial. Herd morality organizes around safety. The last man wants comfort without risk, pity without discipline, equality without admiration. On the timeline, safety is performed as empathy, while power is exercised as expulsion. The ritual is simple. Identify a villain, rehearse collective innocence, eject the offender, reset the cycle. Outrage and pity feed each other. Both are narcotics when unearned. Nietzsche's genealogy strips the piety from these acts. He asks who benefits when enemies are cheap. He answers, the weak benefit by making strength ashamed to appear. Refusal is costly. You will be asked to sign denunciations phrased as compassion. You will be offered belonging in exchange for amnesia about yesterday's contradictions. You will be told that silence is violence, and that speech is violence, and that only synchronized speech earns safety. Nietzsche would insist that you owe no chorus your throat. He would have you accept the loneliness tax that comes with thinking in full sentences. Practice a clean number, not performances about free speech, not martyrdom selfies, a no that protects your energy for creation. Withdraw from dog piles. Decline to inflate harm to justify your anger. Refuse the fun of piling cleverness on someone's worst moment. Name cruelty when it masks as virtue, including in you. If you must oppose, oppose with precision. Facts rather than vibes, arguments rather than allegiances, proposals rather than jeers. Then log off like a man who has work. Pity can be noble when it lifts. It curdles when it replaces respect. The herd uses pity to keep men small, to punish the ascent of excellence as abandonment. Do not surrender to that gravity. Help the weak by asking them to grow. Help yourself by choosing tasks that make pity irrelevant. Study, craft, service. The labor of building something a mob cannot. Expect misreadings. A refusal to join a ritual will be framed as cruelty. Bear it. The cost of remaining a self is always misinterpretation. Nietzsche did not teach you to avoid pain. He taught you to assign it. Pay for altitude, not for applause. Nietzsche urges you to give style to your character. In the market of noise, style is not ornament. It is armor. It makes you hard to misfile and therefore hard to herd. Develop a diction that refuses both euphemism and theatrical contempt. Name things simply. Risk beauty. Risk jokes that are not sneers. Do not borrow the cadence of your enemies or your allies. Write like someone who has been outside. This begins with the body. The timeline dissolves posture. Hours in the chair, eyes in the glow, spine in a curve. Go outside where weather edits the self. Walk long enough for ideas to arrive. Lift heavy enough to remember agency. Eat cleanly enough that your mind feels like a blade instead of a sponge. Style without a body becomes mannerism. The body gives tone weight. Craft a publication rhythm that serves the work rather than the feed. Post as if you were sending letters to one serious friend. Edit as if your children will read you when they are older. Delete things that smell like begging. Keep drafts until they mature. Let your archive shame you into improvement. Do not milk every experience for content. Some evenings belong to silence, so the next morning is not imitation. Choose symbols. A signature greeting. A refusal to subtweet. A habit of crediting sources. A consistent courtesy in reply even when you cut. Symbols make your presence legible. They also make it survivable when storms arrive. People who cannot pass your motives will still remember your pattern. Style is also selection. Refuse topics that melt your brain into the groups. Refuse adjectives that turn men into cartoons. Refuse the endless joke that hides fear of stating a thesis. Offer theses. Accept defeat. Revise in public rarely and precisely. When you change, change because reality moved you, not because your cohort did. Your style will offend the algorithm. Good. Algorithms are instruments, not masters. Bend them where possible. Ignore them where required. Better a small audience that grows around a spine than a crowd that feeds on your erosion. You will be clipped, translated, memed into a mask. Love it insofar as it is unavoidable and instructive. Do not chase clarifications as a lifestyle. Issue one if you erred. Let the rest stand like scars. A scarred face tells a better story than a blurred one. Accept the misinterpretation tax as the fee for building something less fragile than consensus. Decide in advance what losses you can carry. A client who only hires echoes. A date who only wants synchronization. A friend who only laughs at shared enemies. Replace quickly with people who trade in reality. Nietzsche's affirmation is not grin and bear it. It is transmute and build. Use the wrong read to refine the next sentence. Use the exile to deepen your craft. Use the quiet to find your own questions again. Set experiments that toughen you. Post one measured dissent a week into a cohort that assumes unanimity and refuse the dopamine of replies for 24 hours. Read long form that your tribe hates and write a generous summary before you critique. Sit at a table with 3 people who can wound you with truth and let them. Choose a silence window each day where you cannot be found by anyone you do not feed. These are not punishments. They are weights that make your yes heavier than mood. Do not dramatize the crowd's stupidity. Many are kind and caught. Save your scorn for your own willingness to be pulled. Laugh at your hunger for the ding. Forgive your slips without making them an identity. The enemy is not the feed. It is your readiness to be drafted. The medicine is not purity. It is authority over your choices. Thank the timeline for the arena. Thank the mockers for sharpening your edge. Thank the solitude for returning your name. Then close the app and do something that would be good even if no one could know. Nietzsche calls you to self-legislation, to become the law you obey. Not lawlessness, not conformity, but a code you can carry across rooms, platforms, seasons. Write it. Short sentences you can say under pressure. Do not lie. Do not flatter. Do not beg. Admire openly. Correct privately when possible. Publicly when necessary. Work before display. Protect the young from your sarcasm. Refuse the cheap enemy. Pay the bill when you can. Hold your fire when you are bored. Spend your fire when a principle is at stake. This code is lived in the ordinary. You wake before the feed decides your mood. You put your hands on primary sources before commentaries. You answer messages that deserve a man, not a performance. You design days where creation precedes reaction. You refuse to convert grief into content. You give your back to weight so that your words do not have to lift what your habits dropped. Self-legislation produces a gate. People will know how you move. Some will hate it because it denies them easy leverage. Some will love it because it frees them to try. Most will forget you because the timeline erases yesterday. That is fine. You are not building a museum. You are shaping a life that can cross a noisy public square without being sold by it. Nietzsche's promise is not safety. It is the joy of clean strength. To say yes to what you chose, no to what steals you, and silence to what does not matter. The herd will still surge. The algorithm will still bait. The world will not become reasonable to make your virtue convenient. You will become the kind of man who can walk through unreason with a face that does not ask the crowd to remember your name. If this found you tired of renting your convictions by the month, write one sentence you will live this week that the timeline cannot edit. Drop it in the comments below and like this video. Share it to one friend who loves you enough to laugh when you cheat and subscribe. Post less than you build. Read what can bruise you. Refuse the ritual of easy enemies. Give style to your character. Become a man who does not vanish when the crowd arrives.